Our opening words this morning are written by William J. Barber II. We need a moral movement across the nation, an indigenously homegrown, state-based, state government-focused, deeply moral, deeply constitutional, anti-racist, anti-poverty, pro-justice, pro-labor, transformative fusion movement, a movement that is about the moral fabric of our society, guided by a deeply moral and constitutional vision of what is possible. Good morning. My name is Ann Moore. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a member of our congregation and today's worship associate. I'd just like to say a few words as we start the service about my commitment to reproductive justice and my hope that all of you will be moved today by the service to get involved and help us. If you have neighbors, are they involved in another congregation? Is there a reproductive justice group out there? We're trying to connect. I recently met someone from the JCA who's deeply involved in reproductive justice, and we're looking at collaborating. Our dedicated offering next month will be for the MAP, the Massachusetts Medication Abortion Access Project. It's a telemedicine platform to provide medication abortion care throughout the U.S., so I hope you'll support us in that. And we're also looking at collaborating down the road with something called performing the Turnaway play with the Franklin County Continuing the Political Revolutions Reproductive Justice Group. This is a play inspired and informed by a study of 1,000 women over a 5-year period across the country. It's the first scientific study of the consequences people face in either having an abortion or being denied an abortion. If you're intrigued and want to support our reproductive justice movement, please see me after the service or sign the clipboard in the social hall. Thank you. Our first reading this morning, are excerpts from a keynote by UN Population Fund Executive Director, Dr. Natalia Kanem, during the 66th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, March 22nd, 2022. Bodily autonomy, what exactly is it? Bodily autonomy means my body is for me, my body is my own. It's about power and it's about agency. It's about choice and it's about dignity. Body autonomy is the foundation for gender equality, and above all, it's a fundamental right. We know that when women and girls have the information, the services, and the means to make decisions about their own bodies and lives, free from violence, discrimination, or coercion, they can chart their own destiny and realize their full potential. And when they do, the benefits to their health, education, income, and safety extend to the communities, countries, and beyond. Societies flourish when women and girls are empowered to exercise their bodily autonomy. Yet, many are still denied this basic right. Some of the most persistent barriers to bodily autonomy involve harmful stereotypes and misconceptions about the rights of women and girls. Overcoming them will require a deep shift in mindsets and attitudes. It will require comprehensive sexuality education, and it will require laws that enable rather than constrain human rights. The UN Population Fund is committed to promoting women's autonomy and decision-making on sexual and reproductive health, to protecting the rights of adolescent girls, and to advocating for policies that advance gender equality and reproductive rights. But we certainly cannot do it alone. We need a grassroots movement that is impatient. We need human rights defenders to help us advocate for greater progress and stem the regressive tide of political pushback sweeping across the globe.
Our second reading is from Irene Weiser, founder of Stop Family Violence, New Jersey. Abortion bans are a form of violence against women. The essence of abuse is the denial of autonomy. The denial of women's autonomy is the essence of violence against women. The effect is to render her dependent and subservient, either to individual men or the state. Hence, to deprive a woman of bodily autonomy is to deny her equality. The lack of equality is at the root of all abuse. How can we ever begin to end violence against women if the laws of our society will not even guarantee the most fundamental of human rights to women to say at all times, under all circumstances, what we allow to happen to our bodies?
It is my pleasure to welcome Carrie Baker back to our service this morning. She is the professor in the program for the study of women, gender, and sexuality studies at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, and a co-founder of the 5-college program in reproductive health, rights, and justice. She recently authored an open access book, Abortion Pills, U.S. History and Politics, published by Amherst College Press, 2024. Baker is the former president of the Abortion Rights Fund of Western Massachusetts, a current board member of Planned Parenthood Advocacy Group, a fund of Massachusetts, and a co-founder of the Abortion Truth Campaign, which works to protect people from anti-abortion crisis pregnancy centers, disinformation, and predatory practices. She is a contributing editor and regular writer at Ms. Magazine, has a monthly column in the Daily Hampshire Gazette, and a radio show, Feminist Futures, on WHMP 101.5 in Northampton. Welcome, Professor Baker.
So thank you for inviting me back. That's the best compliment. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to be here with you today. On January 22nd, 1973, 52 years ago last Wednesday, the U.S. Supreme Court decided Roe versus Wade, which recognized the constitutional right to liberty that included the right to make reproductive decisions without government interference. On June 22nd, 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, opening the door to state abortion bans across the country. Today, 12 states prohibit abortion entirely. 4 states ban abortion at 6 weeks, 2 at 12 weeks, and 1 at 18 weeks. In the fall elections, 7 states passed constitutional amendments protecting abortion rights, including Missouri and Arizona, very conservative states, which had previously banned abortion. But in the last year, other states have passed new bans, such as Florida, which banned abortion at 6 weeks. But despite these bans, the number of abortions in the United States has actually increased since Dobbs. In 2020, the year before Texas became the first state to ban abortion, the number of abortions in the United States was 930,160. In 2023, just 3 years later, and after Dobbs, there were 1,026,700 abortions in the U.S., an increase of close to 100,000 abortions. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. These numbers do not count the many people obtaining abortion pills outside of the medical system today, so it's actually more. How do we make sense of this? The number of abortions in the U.S. has increased for several reasons. First, states banning abortion are also making access to contraception increasingly difficult, especially for young people, resulting in more unwanted pregnancies and more people needing abortions. Second, anti-abortion policymakers do not support the kind of policies that help people carry pregnancies to term and care for the children they have, such as paid parental leave, publicly funded childcare, living wage jobs, free school lunches, and SNAP benefits. In fact, conservatives are now redirecting meager welfare dollars away from poor women trying to feed their children toward anti-abortion crisis pregnancy centers that use disinformation and coercion to pressure women to have children they can't feed. If women can't afford to care for the children they have, they will most often not want to carry a pregnancy to term. The third factor in increasing abortion rates are that conservative anti-abortion policymakers are passing laws that prevent healthcare professionals from providing life-saving medical care when women encounter complications during pregnancy, making giving birth in America much more dangerous and disincentivizing carrying pregnancies to term. Maternal mortality and morbidity significantly increased in states that banned abortion after Dobbs. And in addition, anti-abortion prosecutors have also increased the criminalization of pregnant women. I'll say more about these two factors in a second, but together they discourage women from carrying pregnancies to term by making them medically and legally dangerous. But finally, and this is really what I want to focus on, is the increase in abortion is also due to the strengthening of abortion rights in states protecting those rights, and the development of new avenues to access abortion pills, which are now used in over 2/3 of abortions. Advocates have pioneered telehealth abortion, where healthcare providers consult with patients online and mail pills to them. They've also pioneered new avenues outside of the medical system, such as community networks sharing abortion pills for free, and websites selling pills very inexpensively. This has all skyrocketed since Dobbs, and none of these numbers of the last two categories are counted in the overall numbers. These new avenues have undermined the key anti-abortion strategy of limiting abortion to freestanding brick-and-mortar clinics and then regulating these clinics out of existence or terrorizing them. Since 1977, there have been 11 murders, 42 bombings, 220 arsons, 531 assaults, 492 clinic invasions, 375 burglaries, and thousands of other criminal activities directed at clinic patients, providers, and volunteers. Since Dobbs, there have been sharp increases in violent anti-abortion attacks on brick-and-mortar clinics, especially in states that protect abortion rights. That's why abortion pills and telemedicine are so important. Last month, I published this book on the history and politics of abortion pills in the United States, which thoroughly explores how these medications were developed in France in the 1970s, the fight to bring them to the United States, which finally happened in 2000, the intense restrictions placed on them by the FDA and the medical system, and the campaign to increase access in recent years, including the development of telehealth abortion, as well as the underground networks I mentioned. The book is available open access through Amherst College Press, and I'll have some out in the lobby afterwards, if you'd like one. Abortion pills are more important now than ever, now that Donald Trump is back in the White House. But he and his people are coming after abortion pills because they know they are a critical path to accessing abortion. The Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 policy agenda for Trump takes direct aim at abortion pills, with plans to roll back FDA approval of mifepristone, which is one of the two pills, and misuse of a 19th century anti-obscenity law called the Comstock Act to criminally prosecute anyone who mails abortion pills, including distributors and doctors. While so far abortion bans have targeted medical providers and those helping people obtain abortion care, anti-abortion politicians are now proposing laws that target people who have abortions. You probably heard about this recently. Legislation proposed in South Carolina, Oklahoma, North Dakota, and Indiana would reclassify abortion as homicide and prosecute patients. In South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Indiana, that could mean giving women who have abortions the death penalty. That is one of the penalties for homicide. In Texas, which also has the death penalty, 12 lawmakers recently pledged to bring forward similar legislation. The harms of abortion bans have fallen most heavily, though, not on people seeking abortion, but on people who are carrying wanted pregnancies to term, who have health complications, and who are being denied care, and in some cases dying. In last summer's Supreme Court case involving denial of emergency care to pregnant women in states with bans, the National Women's Law Center filed a brief documenting more than 70 cases of women almost dying and one who did die when they were denied emergency medical care because of abortion bans enacted across the country. The brief said the true number of cases is likely significantly higher. One involved a woman experiencing what's called preterm premature rupture of membranes, or PROM, which is when the amniotic sac breaks prior to viability. Rather than treat her by terminating her pregnancy, the hospital sent her home. She returned to the emergency room 2 days later with severe sepsis. In another case, a doctor said to a nurse, and I quote, "So much as offering a helping hand to a patient getting on the gurney while in the throes of a miscarriage could be construed as aiding and abetting an abortion. Best not to so much as touch the patient who is miscarrying." That's a quote from a doctor. In another case, Melissa Farmer was denied emergency abortion care she needed, first by her local hospital in Missouri and then by a hospital in Kansas. After diagnosing her with PROM, doctors at both hospitals told Melissa her fetus could not survive, and continuing her pregnancy would put her at risk of serious infection, hemorrhaging, and the loss of her uterus, or even death. That's what they said to her. Still, both hospitals refused to end the pregnancy. With her health deteriorating rapidly, Melissa and her boyfriend drove more than 4 hours to an Illinois abortion clinic while she was in labor. She survived, but the medical and financial consequences of crisscrossing state lines to obtain life-saving abortion care linger to this day. Melissa was docked pay for missing work and had to raise funds to pay for the care in Illinois that her insurance refused to cover. Her boyfriend also lost his job because he was forced to miss work over the days he helped her travel. They could not regain steady employment for months. Some women never get the care they need. A Texas woman, Jennifer Alvarez Estrada Glick, died from pregnancy complications on July 10th, 2022, after a Catholic hospital in Texas failed to offer her a life-saving abortion. Other women who have died because of abortion bans include Jocelyn Barnica in Texas, Amber Nicole Thurman in Georgia, Candy Miller, Georgia, Portia Nogumezi, Texas, Tasha Wilkinson Sabisky, Indiana, Neva Crane, Texas. Say their names. There are more, but we may never know because states with bans are disbanding their maternal mortality committees, so no one finds out about the deaths. Georgia fired everyone on their maternal mortality committee after ProPublica publicized the deaths of Amber Nicole Thurman and Candy Miller. Texas has legally prohibited its committee from reviewing deaths that are considered abortion-related. The NIH and the CDC do not require states to collect information about abortion-related deaths, and that was under Biden. States with bans have higher maternal mortality and morbidity and higher infant mortality. ProPublica has found pregnant women have bled to death, succumbed to fatal infections, and wound up in morgues with what medical examiners recorded were products of conception still in their bodies. It's hard to hear, but we must listen. And remember, these same states are those with the weakest support systems for new mothers and poor children. In addition to the harmful health consequences of bans, pregnant women are also facing increasing criminalization. Recent research from the organization Pregnancy Justice revealed that at least 210 women faced criminal charges because of their pregnancies or pregnancy outcomes in the year after Dobbs, the highest number of documented prosecutions ever in a single year. The real number is likely much higher. Most of the charges involved allegations of child abuse, neglect, or endangerment, but they also included 9 cases of alleged homicide where there were pregnancy losses. Many of these cases involved pregnant women who had positive drug tests, but most of these did not require any evidence that the drug use harmed the fetus or the newborn. A significant number of cases were based on prosecutors' after-the-fact opinions on when and how pregnant women should have interfaced with healthcare providers. For example, 15 cases, the charging documents alleged women failed to obtain adequate prenatal care, and 2 alleged noncompliance with the medical provider's recommended treatment. 10 cases referred to failure to seek help during or after birth. 3 condemned mothers for breastfeeding their infants. Pregnant women are in a special class of persons under an exacting microscope and subject to arrest for otherwise non-existent crimes, such as unlawful delays in obtaining health care. Women's reluctance to seek medical care is understandable given the frequency with which medical providers share information about their pregnant patients with child welfare authorities and police. In over half of those cases, the 210 cases, police relied on information obtained or disclosed in a medical setting. In 114 cases, the child welfare system was involved. The report from Pregnancy Justice said, out of a fear of criminalization and family separation, many pregnant people avoid healthcare settings, even when they desire care. In a recent Georgia case, while experiencing a miscarriage, Candy Miller refused to go to the hospital because she feared criminal prosecution. She died in her bed, cradling her 3-year-old daughter. Most of the people targeted for prosecution are poor or low income. We are in a catch-22. If they go to the doctor, they may be denied care or criminalized. If they don't go to the doctor, they may be criminalized. Rather than compassion and support, they receive judgment and punishment. Meanwhile, prosecutors are not bringing criminal cases against companies and policymakers who release toxic agents into the environment that have clear causal connections to fetal harm, such as government officials in Flint, Michigan, who knowingly switched the city's drinking water supply to a source contaminated with lead, tripling the incidence of dangerously high blood levels of lead in the city's children. But nobody ever criminally prosecuted them. Laws that try to force people to continue pregnancies are a form of violence that subjects them to involuntary servitude and deprives them of bodily autonomy, dignity, and equality. Abortion bans place pregnant people under state control and require them to endure the dangers of pregnancy, labor, and childbirth against their will. Pregnancy causes nausea, fatigue, tender and swollen breasts, constipation, body aches, dizziness, sleep problems, heartburn and indigestion, hemorrhoids, itching, leg cramps, numb and tingling hands, swelling, urinary infrequency and leaking, varicose veins, and many more deeply invasive and painful experiences. Pregnancy takes over the entire body, affecting the cardiovascular system, kidneys, respiratory system, gastrointestinal system, skin, hormones, liver, and metabolism. It increases blood volume by 50% and depletes calcium from the bones, decreasing bone density. Risks of pregnancy include high blood pressure, gestational diabetes, anemia, depression, infection, and death. These risks are particularly acute for women of color and low-income women in the United States, which has the worst rate of maternal death in the developed world. Labor and childbirth are extremely painful and bloody experiences, even with pain medications. To force this labor on women, I argue, is a violation of the 13th Amendment, which prohibits involuntary servitude. Abortion bans also violate women's equality rights. No human being is required to donate their organs, body, or blood to another human being against their will, except for pregnant people. If someone forces another person to donate a kidney, they're committing a crime. No law requires a parent to give their organs or even their blood to their child, even if the child desperately needs it. Yet, abortion bans force pregnant women to donate their entire bodies to serve fetuses for 9 months, a right that no born child could ever has legally. These laws treat pregnant women differently than all other people, in violation of the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. Any attempt by the government, or anyone else for that matter, to force another person to continue a pregnancy is a form of bodily assault, with surprisingly similar dynamics to domestic violence and rape. The essence of rape is the taking control of another person's body and forcing them to do something with their body that is against their will. Abortion bans do the same. They force pregnant people to do something with their bodies against their will, denying their bodily integrity and autonomy. When legislators pass abortion bans and restrictions, they are engaging in a form of violence against women and girls and people who can get pregnant. As Irene Weiser says, how can we ever begin to end violence against women if the laws of our society will not even guarantee the most fundamental human rights to women, to say at all times, under all circumstances, what we allow to happen to our bodies? With Trump and MAGA now in control of the executive branch of the federal government, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But many people are fighting back hard. States supporting abortion rights like Massachusetts have expanded abortion and contraception since Dobbs. To support people in states banning abortion, grassroots activists have worked to pass telehealth abortion provider shield laws in 8 states, including Massachusetts, so that US-based healthcare providers in these states can offer FDA-approved abortion pills to people in all 50 states, including those with bans. We have one such provider here in Massachusetts, the Cambridge-based organization called Massachusetts Medication Access Project, or the MAP, which Anne mentioned. Staffed by doctors, the MAP provides telehealth abortion to people in banned states for a sliding scale fee, going all the way down to $5. So they're really a worthy cause to contribute and support. In addition, grassroots activists have developed a robust alternative delivery system providing abortion pills to people in all 50 states, including those banning or restricting abortion. Operating outside the medical system and extra-legally, euphemism for illegally, this system provides abortion pills to people in 2 ways. One, through vetted online vendors who sell generic abortion pills for as little as $28 with 3 to 6 day delivery. And 2, through activist networks that mail free generic abortion pills to people in restricted states who can't afford or access abortion care otherwise. These networks include organizations like Red State Access and Las Libras. And by the way, in my book, I detail, in great detail, I talk about the formation of these groups, how it happened, how they operate. I interviewed a lot of the people at these organizations. Several organizations and resources exist to support people seeking and using abortion pills, including Plan C, which shares information on how to obtain abortion pills at plancpills.org, and they vet websites selling pills to make sure they're reliable and sending high-quality pills. Groups have also formed the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline, which provides free and confidential medical support for people using pills that they get through these alternative avenues. ReproCare, which provides logistical and emotional support to people self-managing abortion, and the Repro Legal Helpline, which provides free, confidential legal services. This robust alternative delivery system has served tens of thousands of people in the United States in the last 2.5 years, people not counted in the official numbers of abortion that I mentioned at the beginning of my talk. Luckily, abortion pills are 99% effective and safer than Tylenol, so they can be used without medical supervision. They should be over the counter, and the only reason they're not is because of anti-abortion activism. In addition to these ongoing efforts, Democratic attorneys general and governors are fighting to protect reproductive rights. The Massachusetts Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, who's totally cool, is part of DAGA, the Democratic Attorneys General Association, which is suing to block the Trump administration's rollbacks of reproductive rights. Maura Healey, who is also totally cool, is part of the Democratic Governors Association, which is pushing back against the Trump administration's violations of women's reproductive rights. So that's great, the state-level work that's being done. But we also must organize to take back Congress in 2026 and to take back the White House in 2028. And I know this is hard to hear because we're all exhausted from the election that just happened, but this is critical. And we can do it because Americans want it. Currently, 63% of Americans say abortion should be legal in all or most cases, and a higher number in early pregnancy. Of the 17 ballot initiatives on abortion since Dobbs, 14 of them were decided in favor of abortion rights, including in very conservative states like Ohio, Missouri, and Kansas. As UN Population Fund Executive Director Dr. Natalia Kanem said, "We need laws that will enable rather than constrain our human rights. We need human rights defenders who will advocate for policies that advance gender equality and reproductive rights. We must be those human rights defenders." So I'm going to close with a powerful call to arms from Feminist Majority President Eleanor Smeal. It's tempting to feel overwhelmed, but I urge you to remember, the night is always darkest before dawn. Despair is a cunning thief, whispering that our efforts are futile. But history is a testament to the opposite. Our resistance, our persistence, our hope have always been the catalysts for change. Thank you.
Our pastoral prayer meditation this morning was written by Tanya Marquez. Do not fear agitation, for agitation is the rhythm of life itself, to be put into motion, to be stirred. Do not fear the movements that decenter you from what you always thought permanent. You carry within the center of your understanding the compass to show you the way. Carry with you the love that will hold you, the vision that will guide you, the relationships to all beings, and the world that will ground you. Go in peace and in gentle agitation to stir this world to the side of love.
I invite you to join me in the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, Anne. We are called, as always, to this moment now, to share light with one another and go forth, go in peace.